Welcome to this unit which looks at linkers. What is a linker? A linker is a word or phrase which connects a piece of information that comes before it with what follows. You might know them as discourse markers or by other names. I subdivide linkers into what I call explicit linkers. These are words or phrases which fulfill a specific purpose. For example, however is a contrast linker, or vocabulary linkers, a word which is a synonym of a previous word or a word used to refer back to or summarize a previous idea. Why discuss linkers and legal writing? What's the problem? It's because legal writing is often presented in long blocks of text in which often there is very little coordination, that is, no links between paragraphs, sentences or ideas. Why is this a problem? By not using linkers to connect ideas together to create a flow through the text, you're making the text very boring and therefore very dull and lifeless to read. Also, without linkers, there's no way to guide the reader through your ideas, and the reader may get lost in the text as there is no connection between ideas, which then leads to confusion. What's the solution? Simple. Use linkers between paragraphs and sentences to breathe life into your text, making it easy to read, and to connect ideas together to create a logical flow through the text to guide the reader. I want to tackle explicit linkers first, so what I'd like you to do is to look at the following explicit linkers and put each linker into the correct categorizing group. This is what you should have. Easy peasy, huh? With explicit linkers, we have to understand how they work in terms of punctuation. Explicit linkers are made up of three groups: conjunctions, subordinate conjunctions, and transitional phrases. And each group has different punctuation rules. Now, don't start to panic. If you're not sure what these groups are, please check the links in the video description below. The chances are, instinctively, you'll know where to put the punctuation. I hope. Read the following sentences and then work out what punctuation you would use. You should have got something like this. Going through the punctuation rules in depth is outside the remit of this presentation, and as I said, to find out more, and I strongly suggest that you do, please visit the links in the description to this video. Correcting punctuation errors is a huge part of my job, and there are many differences between, for example, Polish and English when it comes to comma use. Now, vocabulary linkers. Vocabulary linkers use vocabulary to refer back to what has already been mentioned. These linkers could be simple substitutive forms such as his, her, this, that, these, those. Vocab linkers can also be synonyms of language used before. Ideas mentioned in a previous sentence could be referred to as suggestions in a further sentence. I'm sure you get the general idea of how vocabulary linkers work, but a warning regarding vocab linkers. Please remember, legal writing prefers clarity over elegance. By using vocab linkers, you may inadvertently cause confusion. The unit on substitution will explain the dangers further, so if you would like to know more about this, please stop the video right here and watch the unit on substitution. Right, let's get down to business. Take a few moments to read through the following paragraph. A quick review of the paragraph tells us that the text, as regards the way the sentences work, is staccato. It's one point, followed by another point, followed by another point, and, you guessed it, you can resolve this problem by adding explicit or vocabulary linkers. Let's tackle the first part of the text. As you'll see in a second, I've made some changes. Take a few seconds to review them. Now, let's explain why these changes have been made. By introducing some explicit linkers, we can make the text a little bit more reader-friendly. By adding once and above, we add more flow to the text. These words refer to the order of task completion and direction, respectively. Therefore is a conclusion linker, here used to state what's needed to complete the next part of the process. As regards vocabulary linkers, it's important to highlight a word already in the text, and that is actions. Why? Let's assume that there was some text previous to this. We need a word to reflect what was stated above. It could be steps, points, or in this case, actions. The point being is that the vocabulary used is a clear link to the paragraph that would have been before this paragraph. The second addition is to include the word documents, which groups the following points and draws the reader's attention to the items required. We can also see that these points have been tabulated, which also makes it easier for the reader. To find out more about tabulation, please refer to Unit 13. Now, let's have a look at the changes to the second part of the text. For the second part of the text, as regards explicit linkers, we've added however, which is a contrast linker and here sets out possible problems, and ultimately, which refers to an end result. In terms of vocabulary linkers, we can add above, which connects this sentence with the listed documents just mentioned, and we've added the term documents twice to continually draw the reader's attention to what exactly must be provided, in both cases referring to the documents being originals. I'm going to put the revised text back together again, so please take another few seconds to review all of the changes. In the final version, the addition of explicit and vocabulary linkers brings the sentences together in a natural sounding way. The disjointed staccato structure has disappeared and we're left with a more spoken approach with a natural flow. The most important point, though, is the fact that all linkers guide the reader and provide non-stop connections throughout the text. If we compare the original version with the corrected version, we can see which one is much easier for the reader to read and work with. Let's recap. 1. There are two types of linkers, explicit or vocabulary based. 2. Use linkers to make a text flow naturally, give your legal writing plenty of life, which will keep the reader interested and involved. And 3. Linkers allowed you to guide the reader through your ideas and connect your ideas together in a logical way. Okay, now we know what the problem is, why it is a problem, and how to fix the problem, we can now test the rule by doing the questions below. However, if you are unsure about any of the points which I've made, please go back and watch the video again. Feel free to pause the video to review all the examples at your own speed. After you do a question below, you can click to see a suggested answer. Just before you get started, please note the following. Please read the question and the hint carefully to make sure you complete the questions properly. Don't just get stuck into the questions, read what you have to do first. In the suggested answer, there may also be further comments to a question, so please read these carefully as well. The suggested answers are just that, suggested. There may be other also correct ways to answer each question. I've tried to put in as many variants as I can, but for obvious reasons I can't write every single correct answer, so as long as your answer follows the main points highlighted in the suggested answer, your answer should be okay. The questions are designed to practice the rule in this unit, so although you can make further corrections to the rest of the text based on the other rules in this course, the answer only concentrates on the rule presented in this unit. And finally, please don't get lost in the legalities of the question text. It's there only to provide material to practice the rule, not to be a law lesson. All that being said, off you go.